peace, prosperity, and love, beautiful people. Welcome to Gracefully Imperfect, a podcast for the Black and African diaspora in material of socioeconomics, politics, religion, and so forth. The centrality of this podcast is immersive empathy, introspection, deep thought, soul-serving conversation and communication, all in the light of unlocking the keys to vulnerability and transformation. During our time together, we will engage in topics related to mental and spiritual health experiences, the intersectionality of mental health and creativity, identity and culture, and any and all things related to healing from trauma, gathering insights, cultivating a deep sense of knowing, and repairing soul wounds. In the essence of communal love and collective consciousness, let us open our minds, lighten our hearts, settle our spirit, access soul intelligence, and affirm the richness of our humanity.
Peace, love, and blessings in abundance to all of you who are tuning in today for another episode of Gracefully Imperfect. I know it's been a while. I don't even want to count the months since the last time that I have been able to get on here and share an intimate, meaningful, and connective conversation with all of you. Nevertheless, the life process continues, and as the life process continues, we're going to embrace it fully. We're going to cherish it. We're going to dissect it. We're going to get to know it and confront it. And we're not going to allow any of that to dictate our motions and our maneuvers. So with that being said, I am grateful to be back. For those that stayed around and listened to the other episodes that are on Gracefully Imperfect, appreciation and gratitude. For those who are tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for choosing this podcast out of the thousands upon thousands of other podcasts that you could choose. It really means a lot. As a husband, as a father, as someone that's doing the best that he could possibly can to increase my footprint, be more open and vulnerable in the public domain. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. So now that we are back, and now that we are fully immersed into making Gracefully Imperfect more improved, more better, more intimate, more vulnerable, I wanted to take this time out to really express that within these show notes, you'll see some links. And these links will take you to my Substack, Instagram, the personal website that's called Embrace Our Imperfection. It would even take you to the independent publication where I wrote a poetry anthology. These are all self-created poetic prose pieces. And the title of this work is called The Depths Below. Again, it's an independent publication, and the link in the show notes will take you directly to a form if you would like a copy of this independent publication. Finished this back in Juneteenth in 2022, and I just recently pulled it from the publisher, which was extremely easy, and it was non-confrontational. But I was able to work out an agreement with the publisher to take it from being a published work under a publishing company to an independent work. So I'm excited for that. And so please, if you love poetry, if you love the art form of communication and expressing yourself and understanding life and engaging with life through life's terms, through words, please give the dust below a chance, either for yourself or someone that you know and care for. The last time we were here, we did a part two um, to the imperfect narrative of a conscientious objector. I found that episode to be very touching. And so, for those who didn't uh, get a taste of part one and part two, I really encourage you to, if you want to get an understanding or a better understanding, or even a fundamental understanding of some of the trials and tribulations and moral and spiritual conflicts that I have been with, that I have gone through within the context of the military, please check those two episodes out. As a matter of fact, I'll add those in the show notes as well. Today, though, I would like for us to really have this intimate conversation that's centered around shame. Yeah, I know that's not an easy topic. I know it brings up a lot of ickiness, a lot of heaviness. It may even make you want to evade, avoid it, deny it. And I'm here to say that shame is what shame does. And so, centering the conversation around shame today, I want to contextualize this. I want to contextualize this as father, as a Black father and a husband. I want to use that to be the foundation, the contextual foundation for having this intimate conversation about shame. And for those who cannot relate to that, I would ask that you at least try to grapple with the times in your life, the moments, the experiences, the people where this notion of shame has manifested in ways that were difficult, bothering, troublesome, sometimes not easily identifiable. Shame for me has always really been this covert, attacking, secretive, scary, intimidating feeling that always seemed to be disguised by something else. Sometimes for me, it's disguised as just anger and stress. It's disguised as self guilt. It's could also be disguised as feeling joylessness, unhappiness, discontent, frustration. And even within the episodes of depression, shame has its way of being disguised through those times, through those lows and disinterest and engaging with the world, with people, and even with yourself. What makes shame so scary is its silence. The fact that it's really not a primary emotion, the fact that it can be concealed and hidden and disguised among other emotional states and other feelings. That's what makes it really scary and really terrifying. As as I was as I came into fatherhood, I was not ready to be a father. I was not ready to take on the responsibility of being a moral, just, correct, and loving father. I was not even in the right headspace or even possessed a light enough heart to be husband. And so, as I embraced being husband and father, even knowingly that I did not have the wherewithal to do either one or to be either one, I found myself spiraling out of control, struggling immensely. I was so detached and disconnected from my wife, from my firstborn, that it became this norm of being disconnected and detached. What does that mean? Well, and I don't want to sit there and make it seem as if I know everything about what my wife feels and has gone through. One of the many things that we have agreed on, it got to a point to where there was no expectation from her end on me providing any nurturing support, direct support, comforting support to her or my child, our child. We were together. We lived with each other. We slept with each other psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. She was the parent. And as I was going through this, yes, there was a lot of, I was very privileged to have the lovingness and the support and the kindness and the warmth from my wife. And even still to this day, and my oldest now is 11 years old, even still to this day, I'll still randomly thank her and express gratitude for her patience and her tolerance. At that time, though, I was so lost and misguided that I couldn't even fathom the effect of my self destruction was having on her and the firstborn baby. I was out of control. I drank and drank and drank and drank. And when I didn't think that I could drink anymore, I would drink more. The alcohol became not only a mere dependence, but it became a part of my spirit. And that alcohol really, really warped and distorted my behavior, my actions, my character, and overall my personality. I became aggressive. I was always angry, and I was always 2.5 seconds away of being enraged. I was withdrawn from anything social. I didn't want to participate in family activities. I didn't want to experience or participate in quality time with family. All I wanted to do was drink because that alcohol gave me exactly what I needed, and an escape. And the more that I drank, the more withdrawn and distant, and the more that I alienated myself from being father, from being husband, from being responsible, and the more pain and suffering I caused. Yeah. And so I wasn't trying to make this heavy, but I just want to really bring it to the attention that shame derives from experiences that are at one point of time unforgivable, foolish really, irresponsible, and experiences that could have or did lead to the hurt and harm of others, especially those that have been nothing but loving and caring and affectionate to yourself. So, yes, there was an upside. I did not stay an alcoholic. I eventually, through constant, constant reminders, constant conversations, and constant comments, I eventually sought help. I eventually went through substance abuse protocol. I went through group therapy, individual therapy. And even though I didn't quit drinking, I more so moderated my drinking. I didn't, I did change my relationship with alcohol from being this binge drinker, drinking until intoxication, to only drinking during social situations and not keeping alcohol in our home. And so, after I went through all of this therapy and all this substance abuse treatment, I also had to go through a very intimate and enduring process of re strengthening my identity as father and as husband. And to be completely honest, it's still going on today. I have made a lot of strides. I've made a lot of changes in the way in which I show up and I express and how I immerse myself as father and as husband. And if my family was here, I'm more than confident that they will say that um, positive transformation has occurred. But I had to re-strengthen, really, really reconstruct those two identities. And as I was reconstructing, yes, there was hesitance and reluctance and apprehension. from my wife. My baby, my firstborn was still very young. And at this time, he's so used to mommy providing nurturing support, cuddling, co- you know, uh, changing of diaper, bathing him and feeding him, kissing his boo-boos, wiping his tears. He was so used to mommy doing all of that. So me stepping into it, I thought that it was going to be such a chaotic situation and it was going to be resistance on his end. The beauty of children is just their adaptability and how flexible they are. Because he forgave me as soon as I leaned into being more nurturing. Hmm. I was so wrapped up into thinking that this little being was going to reprimand and punish me for my past deeds. And he opened his arms with such comforting energy. He didn't resist. He didn't evade. He didn't avoid. He didn't deny me. He didn't reject me. He welcomed me. So really, it was very seamless with my firstborn, very seamless. And even with my wife, it was too. And this is just my opinion, there may have been the side eye of how long is this going to take place? Is this a forever change? Is this just a phase? She never expressed that really. That was just me, overanalyzing. But she comforted me as well. And she encouraged me and empowered me to be the type of father and husband that I wanted to be, not based on her conception of father and husband, but based on my own conception, which took in complete consideration of her needs and wants and preferences. Leaning into that was difficult. Leaning into that really brought out a just this nerve-wracking feeling of, or even series of thoughts, really, of why was I not doing this the entire time? Why did it seemingly to me take so long for me to realize the harm and hurt that I was inflicting upon child and mother? That's where shame begins, when you begin to question your humanity. You do not validate and affirm the the nuances of human subjectivity, that you don't look at those experiences, historic and present, and rather than judging them or evaluating them, you layer them and fortify them with grace and humility. I wasn't doing that. And so when I started to ask those evaluative questions, that's when I opened the door for shame to generously walk right on in. And so even through that, the therapeutic process of becoming more attuned as father and husband and being more actively involved, I still continuously questioned question over and over again the wrongdoing and whether I was deserving of this opportunity, of this grand divine opportunity to redeem myself. Shame. Shame is systemic. It is deliberate. It is debilitating. Shame has a way of making the person feel so much internal and spiritual distress that no one, nothing can catalyze the wholeness that needs to occur or needs to come into play to repair yourself. Shame is deep, and the only thing that can really pull you out of shame is self kindness, lovingness, and self compassion. And I'm not saying that no one person, no group, no message, no intervention can get you out of shame. It's just that shame is an internal thing. Shame attaches itself to a script that is self dehumanizing. It manifests as worthlessness, undeservingness, self hate. And so the only way to really get out of that, those are very deep, dark holes to be in, is that the catalyst has to be the agent of change. And that is the person who is experiencing the shame. And shame always found itself creeping up in very clandestine, covert ways, especially if I made a mistake or a misstep. I didn't attend to the needs or the emotional needs of my wife or to my child appropriately. I handled a situation without thinking deliberately on cause and effect. So when I did what most humans do, what all humans do, and that's you know, perform some type of error. The first thing that confronted me was this systemic shame that derived from my time as an alcoholic and as a self-destructive husband and father. That shame found its way back into the present. That's why I say systemic. It connects the history to the present, which informs the future, unless you sever the head of shame and replace it with kindness and compassion and self-love. Now, I know what you may be asking. Are you still experiencing shame today? Today, I am much better. Today, I am much lighter. I'm less, I don't execute myself for my, for my missteps, for the accidents I do have a tendency sometimes to overanalyze, and that's a defense mechanism as well as a protective thing. But I do understand that it's easy for shame to reassert itself and reattach itself to my way of thinking and perceiving and knowing and being. So the very first thing when I make any type of mistake or any type of error is that I immediately go into self-forgiving. Kyle, what you did is just an accident. You mean well. You are a spirit of love. You are a genuine soul who's trying to do the best as he possibly can. You will make mistakes. You will not always make the right decision, and you will not always understand every choice that you have. You are doing your very best to be righteous and loving and truthful. And for that, and for that only, do not let this define who you are. And so that's just an example of some things that I'll say to myself to let shame know that you're not welcome here anymore. And for those who are battling with shame, and I ask that you really, really confront it and challenge it in a meditative state on the cause of that shame, the root of that shame, and how it manifests. Does it conceal itself like mine through anger, through destruction? Does it come out as a mechanism of evasion, denial? There's so many different ways that shame, the sense of worthlessness, that dehumanizing mechanism, it comes out in so many ways. So I ask that you look at that so you know exactly the source of your shame. I have thoroughly enjoyed having this very intimate conversation with all of you. Thank you for opening the door to vulnerability and welcoming intimacy, introspection, reflection, and the sorts. I would also like to say thank you for being patient with this process called life. Your shame is not, your shame does not dictate who you are. It does not dictate your identity. It does not dictate your spirit. It does not dictate the person within the context of family and community who you are destined to be. So please remember that. Please hold on to that. Please cherish that. This has been wonderful. This has been great. I can't wait for another conversation. If you have any ideas on some of these on topics you would like to for us to really get deep into, please send an email to poeticsemantic7@gmail.com. Please subscribe on Apple to this podcast. Give us an authentic review. Hopefully, it's 5 stars. Subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, and please look at the show notes and find ways to connect with myself in this embrace our imperfection movement. All right, y'all. It's been grand. Peace, love, the revolutionary kind. Blessings in abundance.